everybody, it's Romania Black, and man, we're on episode 10 of Tsurune season 2, and I've been in love with this season. This is clearly one of the best anime out this spring, and it's so frustrating because it seems like it's so overlooked, and I don't know why people overlook KyoAni stuff. Like Violet Evergarden, gorgeous, free, comfort anime, hilarious, wonderful shipping. This series is just like all of the emotions and gorgeous animation and themes and everything. I'm like, and then people are like, well, there's also Kobayashi Dragon Maid. And I'm like, yes, there is that. But these series, I'm like, people are sleeping on this show and I don't know why. I guess because they think that archery is boring, but it's just like, it's not just about archery and there's so much to it. And I have spent like over an hour and a half the last 2 weeks talking about these episodes because there's been so much happening and there's so much to talk about and it's absolutely wonderful. And I'm just, I'm over the moon, but I'm like, come on, y'all. Come on. What are we doing? So yeah, I've been really, in love with this season so far. And in the last 2 episodes, we've got a lot of focus on Nikaido. In the last episode, we found out that his uncle is his mentor that was the Kyudo archer. And Nikaido has this grudge against Seonji sensei because he believes that she turned his uncle away. And that's what's caused him to kind of fall into a funk on top of his illness. And we all know as the audience that's a huge misunderstanding, but Nikaido doesn't know. And there's been all of these factors with Nikaido. It's been crazy. And then in the last bit of the episode, you had Nikaido confronting Masaki and saying, oh, we'll have a practice game against your group and see who's better before nationals. And Fuwa is trying to get Masaki to help Nikaido because Fuwa senses that Masaki may be one of the only adult mentor figures that Nikaido will take seriously and listen to. So lots of things happening beneath the surface. And then our boys are still trying to get the Ikiai under wraps. Everybody in the comments, we've all been talking about it. It's absolutely hilarious that our 5 boys, they've been struggling to get in sync with one another and figure out like the Ikiai, the breathing, together as one. And the girls have been doing it since episode 6. So it's like the girls figured out, they cracked the code and they're like, really guys? But, maybe they'd be like, well, there's only 3 of you, so it's easier. But I've loved this season and what we've gotten with Nikaido, and I've like said a whole theses on him the last 2 episodes, but I love Fuwa too. Fuwa, I feel like I would be a cross between Fuwa and Ryohei in real life. I feel like I'd probably be leaning more towards Fuwa. Fuwa and I, we like click, but I'm not as flirty as Fuwa or as like outright. I'm more gullible and naive like Ryohei in that regard. So that's where the combo is. But yeah, y'all and we're gearing up for nationals. We have 4 episodes left, which is crazy. That's still so much. We have 4 episodes left to see what's going to happen with our boys. And we're supposed to have a practice game against Tsujimine in this one before nationals, and then that's going to give us the episodes leading through nationals, and then that fire ceremony that Masaki was talking about. So we'll see. I don't know what to expect. I've been staying off social media. I have been staying off of the Discord until I've watched these episodes. And actually, episode 11 just came out, but I've been behind trying to catch up. So hopefully I will be able to watch episode 11 very soon. Hopefully this weekend after watching this one. So we'll see. But yeah, I really have enjoyed this season, and I get excited for this and Buddy Daddies. I've been the 2 series, and Vinland Saga, which are 3 very different shows, but Vinland Saga, Buddy Daddies, and Tsurune have been my 3 shows that I've been so excited for each and every week. And My Hero Academia has come out as well, but I've read the manga for that series, so I kind of know what to expect. But with these series, those 3, I look forward every week to see how I'm surprised. And Bungo Stray Dogs. There's 4. I can't leave them out. So yeah, I've been very lucky to be watching some really good anime. But as far as the animation quality, well, Bungo Stray Dogs has been really good too. So I'm basically very fortunate that I have 4 series I'm really fond of this spring. But Tsurune has a special little place in my heart. So we'll see. But yeah, here I am. Every Bungo Stray Dogs fan watching this video is like, really, Romania? You forgot about that one? I was like, I didn't forget. So we're going to watch Tsurune episode 10 of season 2. And we are going to start that here. I'm so excited, y'all. In 3, 2, 1... and let's do this. KyoAni almost got me. I was like, oh my God, no, I was starting to tear up in that. I was starting to tear up. And I was like, if I start crying now, I'm not going to stop. And luckily Minato and Masa just being like such positive rays of sunshine, they're the only thing that kept me. Minato's optimistic spirit and positivity is literally the only thing that has kept me from sobbing in this episode. Because I was like, you knew it was coming. KyoAni was going to pull that heartstring when you found out that uncle was sick. You're like, they were going to give us a scare in the hospital, and they did it this episode. I was like, are you kidding me? But there was still so much left unsaid, and we've got 3 episodes left, so I know that they're saving it for the resolution of this season. They're saving it for the resolution, right? And I wish, but you know what? It's the tragedy that we, the audience, know more than our main characters do. And we know that Saionji, when she's talking to Minato, was talking about the uncle having this beautiful form that was shaman style, and that she couldn't teach him because it would ruin that form, so she sent him away. We know that as the audience, and you want Minato to connect the dots and to be like, oh, that's who she's talking about, and tell Nikaido that, because that would explain and solve a lot of the misunderstanding. But one, it's Minato. And he's just like, it's Minato, and it's like, bless his heart. I'm like, ugh. And the other thing is that not only is it Minato, but he's kind of dense to begin with, but he doesn't know the uncle, and he's not going to assume, right? But I'm hoping those dots connect, because I need, or Saionji shows up at Nationals and gets to talk to Nikaido. I need that. Because the last 2 episodes, I've been really hyper-focused on Nikaido, and he kind of reaches his boiling point in this episode. But one thing that's great about Tsurune is even when characters reach their limits and their boiling point, it's not treated as melodramatic, right? It is not treated as, this big drama fest. It is dramatic and it is angsty, but they treat it very realistically in this. Like Nikaido, obviously, at the end of the day, all of his anxiety, all of his anger and frustration is really just him projecting from himself onto others. He's not really mad at others. Now, he is mad because Shu and Minato have gotten to be taught by Saionji and not his uncle, but he's not necessarily mad at them. He's just mad at the idea that these 2 kids were chosen over his uncle, and he believes his uncle's better than all of them. So there's just so much to go off of, and there's so much I wanted to say in this episode, but I knew once I started talking, I would go on a tangent, and I wouldn't be able to finish the reaction, so I just kept biting my tongue in the reaction, being like, oh, you're gonna talk about this later, Romania, we're gonna talk about this later, and just being like, but, oh man, just these episodes have been so good, and poor Odaguro, he confessed, and I'm really hopeful maybe when all is said and done and their Kyudo careers in high school are finished, she can go out on a date with Odaguro. Maybe that'll be the case. Or maybe not. She kind of turned him down gently, and he's like, well, I have to practice on Kyudo now too. I was like, that's the romantic in me wanted her to say yes so badly, but as being a former competitor, dating someone in the same activity can be very distracting. And she's like, we've got nationals, dude. Maybe after nationals, I'll go out on a date with you. Right? Maybe. I like that the romantic in me wanted to be like, say yes, Sayo, but the realist in me that's also a competitor and has done like a competitive activity like Kyudo before is like, no, dating will be a distraction. None of that. Don't have time for that, especially a rival teammate. No. So it's like, that was the smart choice, and Odaguro takes it as well as you can, and she's just like, oh, I'm sorry, I just need to focus on Kyudo right now. Respect, right? But she didn't turn him down and say she didn't like him. She just said she needed to focus on Kyudo. So maybe there's hope, Odaguro. Maybe once it's all said and done, competition's over, you guys can go out on a date. That would be super cute. That would be really cute. I love that Yuna and oh gosh, Noah, I like that they were both like, yeah, like you didn't betray us, girl. You stay strong. Our girls stay strong, right? But man, this episode was really good. And I want to bring my Borkun out for lots of reasons. We're gonna put Nikaido over here. I'm going to put Nikaido here. Fuwa is so mysterious and interesting. And Nikaido gets to go right here in his own little space. We're going to put Fuwa over here. We're going to put Fuwa here because he deserves to be. I love Fuwa's character. Fuwa, as much as I love Nikaido, I love our boy Nikaido, Fuwa may be my favorite character of Tsujimine because I think I relate to him more. And then we have Minato right up here. And we're going to put Masa down here. Talking about Masa. KyoAni. Bless you. Bless you, Animation Studio. Bless you indeed. Oh my God. This episode, I was like, well, we're going there, aren't we? Okay. There's so much. One thing that KyoAni kind of excels at is doing visual symbolism that is not, it's not obvious, but it is noticeable. I like that KyoAni, when they do animation and they do visual symbolism, it's not one of those things where they are hitting you over the head with the symbolism, being like, do you get it? They don't do that. They do these really little nuanced, tiny things that if you miss it, it's not going to affect your understanding of the scene or what it could mean. But when you notice it, you're like, ooh, that's a really cool little additional thing that you just did. And it makes the scene even more powerful. And this opening where Nikaido meets Araki, who is our captain, got glow with the mask, Araki and Higuchi. When he meets them, it's all like in a vignette. And if you don't know what that is, it's where it's like a lens and it's the edges are in black, right? It's called a vignette and the edges are in black and it's almost like tunnel vision, right? So Nikaido, how he sees it is he very much has tunnel vision. He very much has tunnel vision and he's only thinking of the near to present. He is not thinking of the future at all because like we've said in the last 2 episodes, it's just kind of, he doesn't want to think about the future because there's all of these unknowns. Is his uncle going to be alive? What is he going to be doing? Is he going to even want to do Kyudo? Right now, he's pretty much established the only reason he's doing Kyudo, he says that he wants to beat Shu and Minato, the 2 people that Saionji chose to teach instead of his uncle. He wants to beat them, and then he's going to quit Kyudo. That's where he says he's at, because he's like, and it's like, we as the audience, we're like, are you really going to quit Kyudo? Do you really even want to quit Kyudo? I don't think you do. I think that you're just telling yourself that, because you don't... It's so frustrating. Again, Nikaido can be so frustrating, but at the same time, you understand him and you want to root for him. That's my thing. I don't hate Nikaido. I want to root for him. I just want to kind of shake him and be like, Yabaka, what you doing? I'm like Fuwa. I'm on his side rooting for him, but at the same time, he's making some decisions that you're like, but why? And this whole opening scene where we see he just has the tunnel vision. And again, seeing how much has been done since he got there. Like we had the pieces of plywood and the little targets there against the lockers, but there's all the weeds and there's not a path or anything, right? There's just nothing there. And it's almost like Nikaido, it seems like he ran away from Kyudo at Kurosaki because just the idea of being on a team with Minato and Shu, who he knows took something from his uncle, was just too much for him to bear. So he goes to Tsujimine thinking he can escape Kyudo, but what does he discover? It's like that passion is there. He can't run away from it, and he immediately finds the range, sees the archery targets, and is like, damn it, I can't escape from it. But then he gets the idea. He gets an idea, a wonderful little idea, like the Grinch. And he realizes that, oh, what if I formed this ragtag Kyudo team and we just took out Shu and Minato, and then I got my revenge, and then showed them what for. And that seems to be the angle that he's going for, looking at those targets, being like, okay, and he sees the 2 people. Okay, so there are the umbrellas, there are the shack and everything. It's just not as, it gets a little bit more well-kempt when Nikaido gets there. A little bit. Not much, but a little bit. And he sees Higuchi and Araki, who are the 2 third years, going to be third years, there. And he goes to class 2-3. Aragaki, yeah. So he goes there with them. And I like that you have Higuchi practicing with the hand target, kind of like what we've seen Kaido use. And then you see Aragaki has the mirror because he's the narcissist, right? He's so soft-spoken. And then Nikaido, and everything's kind of in the shadows. Everything's in the shadows, and it's so dark, right? And Nikaido going up to them to ask about it. But like the classroom is scarce, it's all spread out. We don't have, so Fuwa was not an original member, and neither was Otaguro. So he was not. So my question with Fuwa is, when did he join and why? I mean, my answer would be that he likes Nikaido and he joined kind of like Seiya, where he met Nikaido, fell head over heels and was like, sure, I'll join your Kyudo team. And then kind of like Seiya found a knack for it. Kind of like Nanao found a knack for it. But we don't know where Fuwa's coming. Fuwa, his family, or his aunt, Nikaido's aunt, clearly thinks Fuwa is like part of the family almost, because she lets him stay behind with Nikaido. Or maybe she realized Nikaido needed a friend to go back, with his team. But yeah, we don't get where Fuwa's come from or his connection. I want more of that, but I don't know if we'll get it this season. And he says, are you the head of the Kyudo club? And Aragaki's like, well, yeah, technically. And so that's when he joins a request form. And then Nikaido like does his little fake smile, and it shows him running away from Shu. And he's like, yeah, I'm serious about joining. But like he tells Minato, he's like, I'm just using them. So he tells Minato that he's just using the club. He's using the club for his own personal agenda. And he doesn't really have anything outside of that planned for the club or for anyone but himself. He doesn't even have anything planned for himself, right? He's like, we can win nationals if you'll have me. And he smiles, but what I like before the introduction is that after he smiles, we see like that smile, that frown, and it just fades away to a frown. Like we see really, he doesn't really care about nationals and stuff, but he's just so hell-bent on revenge, right? And he's using them. And maybe the frown is also showing that he understands he's using them and he feels bad about it. He doesn't like it. What do we do with that, right? What do we do with that? It's just, I'll go past this OP. I'm excited for nationals. It seems like at the end of the day, at the end of the episode, and I was like, well, we'll see you at nationals. And Nikaido's like, yeah, we'll see you and we'll face you. So nationals are next episode, which we only have episodes 11, 12, and 13. So we only have, those 3 left. So it'd be a fine time. I think we're going to have episodes 11 and 12 focus on nationals. And then 13 may finish up nationals, and then we'll have the tournament that either we're going to have nationals episodes 11, 12, finish up 13 and have the summer fire festival or whatever at the end, or they're going to make the fire festival like a thing for an OVA or a thing at the very, very, very end of the episode. We'll see. But yeah, so getting ready for this practice match. And Minato's feeling pretty good. I like that they have a name for it now. That Ryohei notes that he's in full full Kyudo mode. I kind of love that Ryohei calls it full Kyudo mode, and Seiya's like, yep. I like that Seiya, he's got his contacts in. He's like, yeah, he's excited about the mock match. Our chance. And I like that Kaido's really excited too. He's like, we'll just show him what we're really made of. It'll be really great. We're going to beat him and put ourselves in good shape for nationals. And Nanao points out a really good thing about Nikaido, or about Kaido. Nanao points out that Kaido is always thinking of the future. That's it's a cool contrast. You have Nikaido, who's always thinking about the past, and you have Kaido, who's always thinking about the future. And in both cases, neither of them at times live in the moment or the present, and it hurts them. In Nikaido's case, the fact that Nikaido is not thinking of the future is a detriment. In Kaido's case, the fact that he forgets the past and doesn't think about the present sometimes is a detriment to him. So I like that Tsurune is touching on how the characters situate themselves in the past, present, or future can really not only affect the way that they go at Kyudo, but their entire perspective about the activity itself. It's really interesting, right? And of course, Kaido defends himself. And so, yeah, Higuchi and Aragaki, who are our founders, Nikaido's like, yeah, I'm sorry I didn't ask you about it. And he's like, I figured it would be good to give him another beating before the tournament. And Nikaido tries to pass it off as like, oh, well, I just thought, it'd be fun to like just beat him up, before the game. Ha ha ha. And Otaguro, because he's this big oaf, a lovable oaf, is like, you sure like roping us into stuff out of nowhere, huh? We'll go right along with it, right? And Higuchi's like, he's always been that way. Like, nothing's changed. And Nikaido's like, oh, have I? And it's like, yeah, you literally have been. But they wouldn't have made it to nationals otherwise. Let's make the most of it. Yeah, and Higuchi's feeling really good, he says. And Fuwa's like, wow, that's really surprising. Because, yeah, Higuchi doesn't strike as a super confident person. So Fuwa's like, wow, that's really something coming from you. And so here's the thing. I didn't even think about this, but Higuchi's like, if I line this cut on my bow up, on my wrapping with the target stake, like a scope, basically, then he's like, if I can line this cut up, then I pretty much land every hit. And Fuwa notes, like, Higuchi doesn't seem like, here's the thing, Higuchi and Aragaki and Otaguro, they both kind of basically out themselves as ones that don't really think much of the rules. They haven't taken the time, oddly enough in all of this, to learn the basic rules of Kyudo, because Fuwa knows the rules. That's the thing. Fuwa knows the rules of the game. Now, again, Fuwa was not part of the original members, so he strikes me like as a Seiya type character that learned all the rules to be by the book and know how to play the game. That just seems like the type of person that he is. And he is about to tell Higuchi, you can't do that, that's cheating. And Nikaido stops him and says, no, don't say anything. And Fuwa's like, dude, because again, Nikaido's not thinking in the future. Fuwa's like, if we go to a match and someone notices that he's lining up his shots and disqualifies him, all this is for nothing. He's like, we don't have spare players. He's like, we got to go with the crew we have. He's like, dude, we can't cheat. Like, he's just trying to point that out to Nikaido. And that's when Masa steps in. He's like, that's going to get you disqualified. And he's like, really? And he's like, yeah, it's against the rules to have any cuts or marking that help you aim. You should get that fixed. And Higuchi's like, well, that sucks, just when things are easy. And Fuwa's like, well, maybe Fuwa tries to do damage control. He's like, well, maybe we can just cover it with some tape for the day. And Nikaido instantly, like, I love that when the camera gets on Nikaido's gaze, it kind of like shakes a little bit with Masa. It shakes just a little wee bit. And he thinks back to his uncle. He's like, sounds like a plan. He thinks back to his uncle. And that brief moment where it flashes back to the uncle Shigeyuki, there's no sound. No sound, no dialogue, nothing. It's just like a quick flash of him thinking of his uncle. And like he can relate his uncle somewhat to Masa. He says the rules make it so only sheer skill is pitted against one another. And Nikaido's like, Like, Nikaido is just, he's in his own head so much in this episode. And it's so sad because he's his own worst enemy, right? In all of this. And it's heartbreaking. And I just like that Nikaido looking at Minato. Here's the thing. I came into this season thinking that Nikaido was going to be part of the harem of Minato. And no. If anything, I've come to this epiphany, right? As I was watching this episode, I came to this epiphany. This is not about the harem of Minato. This is about the harem of Masa. Because if you think about it, Masa, he had Seiya, who Seiya is his BFF. And if you ship him and Seiya, I totally get it. I do. But Seiya's kind of moved on to Kaido. So it's fine. They're still BFFs. Then you have Shu. Now, I do think Shu is still a big ship with Minato. Most certainly. Definitely, because he's the right-hand guy, goes to it for advice. They have an admiration for each other. Totally think that's a ship. But yeah, Masa, I'm telling you, this show, it is all about shipping Masa and Minato. And the teacher in me is still like, I can't quite commit to it because it feels a little wrong for me because I feel like it'd be like me dating a student. And that is like a line that I will not cross professionally. I'm like, oh no. But there is like a little tiny part of me that's like, with Minato, not with myself, but with Minato and Masa, I'm like, that's a little bad boyness. I'm intrigued by it. I'm intrigued. If you aged them up and Minato was in college and Masa was still teaching, I'd be more comfortable with it. but I get the show really wants to ship them together. And so there's that. And then honestly, at first you would think that Kaido would be the one to ship with Minato, but nah, he shipped with Seiya. So it's really Shu and Masa that are the main ships, and then Seiya and Kaido are just kind of off here by themselves to the side, right? But with Masa, yeah, you've got Minato, sure, but you also have Kaido has this kind of like crush on Masa a little bit, not too much if you want to don't ship it. But now there's like Nikaido being involved. But here's the thing, with Kaido, it's more of like a mentor for sure. Minato is the ship. That is the ship if we're going to ship them. And Nikaido is almost like this weird like pseudo fascination, right? Nikaido has this fascination with Masa because he sees a connection like he has with his uncle, but he wants to know, like Masa does not seem like the mentors and the adult authority figures he's seen with Kyudo in the past, so he's intrigued by Masa. But that moment Masa talked about firing those 211 consecutive shots, there were sparkles in them eyes, and I was like, yeah, the ship's there. The ship's there. I thought it was going to be Nikaido and Minato this whole time. I'm still like total Nikaido Fuwa OTP, 100%. But if you told me that you saw a ship between Nikaido and Masa, I see you, and I get what you're saying. I get what you're throwing down. And so, yeah, I didn't get to see who actually won the battle. So they face them, and Kaido misses the shot and gets mad. And so what the totals ended up being was Anogi, which is Kaido. He misses 2 shots. Ryohei misses 2 shots. Seiya gets all his. Nanao misses 1, and Naramiya misses 1. So they missed 6 altogether. Nikaido misses none, like Seiya. Fuwa misses his first. Odaguro misses 1. Higuchi misses 1. Aragaki misses 1. So it was 4 misses, 4 to 6. Okay. So it was 4 to 6, and they beat him again. Okay. That's a tough round. That's tough, right? And I love that Kaido is just like chopping the onions, and Ryohei's like, please don't chop your finger off being mad. Please don't. He's like, I love that he's like, I love Ryohei's looking down at him like, oh, don't chop your finger off. And Nanao's like, well, we still did all right. Like, we only lost by a little bit. And it was better than regionals. Yes, much, much better. And Ryohei's like, there's something crazy about them. They look like a mess at first, but you can really sense their ikiai all the same. Yeah, they're all together. It's like they're all a band of individuals that seem like a hot mess, but they band together and make it work. And yeah, I can totally relate because the one speech team I was on, I did 2-year speech and then 4-year speech. And the 4-year speech team I was on was kind of like Tsujimine. They were kind of a hot mess, but they made it work. And we were all like together as a team, even if we were kind of like crazy and chaotic. And I get that. So I kind of get what they're talking about with them having their own rhythm develop. And Nikaido having like such resolve, right? And Ryohei being like, they shot as a team. And so Zaki-san, Fuwa is the socialite, right? I love that Fuwa, like Nikaido is such like a cat. Nikaido is, people are comparing him to a white fox that like retreats from the hand trying to pet him. Like Nikaido is like all introverted, doesn't want to get out of his shell, doesn't want anything to do with anybody. Fuwa is very social and congenial. Fuwa's like all about making friends, being nice. Fuwa doesn't care about like trade secrets, right? I feel like when he's like, oh, I'll tell you guys a secret, he just doesn't want Nikaido to know because he doesn't want Nikaido to get mad at him. But he's like, he's got such swagger and confidence. He's like, I don't care if you guys know what we do as a team. It's not going to affect me, so why not? And so, of course, Minato has no shame. And Minato's like, can you guys just tell us how you guys are all in sync? Like, we're really curious. Like, you almost have to admire how straightforward Minato is. Like, he's so straightforward that you just kind of have to look at him and go, like, just look at you. Look at all you there. And so Fuwa's like, well, fine. The guys on our team aren't on a level to try to match each other and keep a steady rhythm. He's like, we're not, like, this super advanced team that can do that sort of thing. We're not like Kurosaki. He's like, that's not how we roll. He's like, you still look like you're shooting as a team, though. So how do you do it? I like that Minato's like, I want to know what your secret is. I like that Minato just comes out and says, he's like, tell me your secrets. Fuwa's like, my secrets? What? And then he says, I mean, I guess there's something that I try to focus when we're up there together. I like that Fuwa's like, it's not about what the others do, it's about what he does, because he's like, I can share to you my thing that I do, and maybe that helps, maybe it doesn't. And Minato's instantly like, tell me what it is. Also make note, whenever Minato is like right next to Fuwa, one, Fuwa is much bigger than Minato, but also Minato looks like so young compared to Fuwa. Fuwa has like an older air to him. He just looks like he's naturally older looking. Could be the hair. And I like to say is like, chill out, Minato. Minato gets like in the zone. He is in the zone with Kyudo. And it's very innocent, but he just gets this like intensity about him. I've never really met a main character that gets as innocently intense as Minato does, because there's no like malice behind it. There's no like evil arch rival energy or like negativity. He's just so into Kyudo. He wants to learn from. He's like the Goku of sports anime is Minato, because he just wants to know and just wants to like battle people, and it's so innocent and pure, right? And Seiya's like, calm down there, and Fuwa's like, I'll do it, but only on one condition. He's like, Nikaido's got this grudge against you and that Fujiwara guy from Kurosaki. He's like, did you know? I like that he's like, he's got this big grudge against you. And Minato's just like, I thought we were best friends. Minato seems like so, like Ryohei and Nao are like, oh crud, he has this rivalry. And Fuwa makes note that it's not healthy. It's very toxic. He's like, have you noticed? And Minato's like, no. And I like that Seiya's looking at him like, of course he hasn't noticed. Like, you don't know our Minato. But Seiya's like, yeah, I picked up on that. I love that Minato had no clue, and he was like, I never sensed any hostility. And Seiya's like, yeah, it's pretty obvious from the onset. Like, it just, these precious beans. He's like, I think Shu ignored him because he noticed too. Yeah, and if you go back to that flashback, Fuwa is watching Nikaido, and Fuwa, of course, notices and sees right through Nikaido, because that's like his superpower. And Shu does not like Nikaido because of how he was trash talking Minato. Shu's like, I ain't got time for you. And I have a lot of respect for Shu, because Shu is just like, sorry, bye. Like, I'm not wasting my time with you. You're terrible. And Nikaido's not. He was fake in that moment. And Seiya's like, well, I didn't say anything because it didn't seem like you knew, and didn't want to like, point that out. And so Fuwa's like, so you don't know what his deal is. You don't know why he's like this. And so I love that Minato, he says, well, if Shu noticed, Shu probably understands why. And I kind of love that, because it's Minato saying that he understands that Shu is a more quiet and reserved person and gets that. And is like, well, Shu just probably didn't want to say anything. And it's like, So he's going to ask him about it. I'm like, cool, that's great. And he's like, I want to find out too. And Fuwa's like, yes, if you find out and tell me, I'll know as well. And I can help my friend. Good on ya. I love it. And that's when everybody shows back up with the veggies and all of that. And so I like that Otaguro is offering to help Seiyo, and it is very sweet, but the other girls are like, Seiyo's not frail, I like that they're defending her. I think Otaguro is so sweet for liking Seiyo. And then, I often do this if I have a headache. I will reach the back of my neck and scratch my neck like this. If a headache is coming on, I will do that gesture. And the fact that Nikaido is doing it, it's like, okay, he's just clearly not in his head right? And he ignores Minato. He's just like, ugh, I don't want to talk to you. And that's when Minato goes, wow, the look on Minato's face is, he really doesn't like me. And it's like, Minato just didn't see the forest for the trees. And I love that you can't feel too sad in this episode, because the moment like something angsty happens, Minato's just like, oh, huh. And he's just the most jovial about it. I'm like, dude, come on. And then we have them with the tea. I like that they have like the tea around them. It's very interesting, and I feel like Fuwa has like such an old man soul, right? He says it's childish and lame, but I'm like, no, it's not. It's actually really good. I like it. And we find out that Fuwa is a Japanese history buff. He's very much like a Hyuga from Kuroko's Basketball. He's a Japanese history buff. And he tells the story of the one archer in the past that just had to shoot one target, right? He just had to shoot one target. And what I kind of love is that he had only one shot, and he was up against winds and waves with a tiny target far away. And I like the message that he gives the boys in that you're focusing too much on trying to become a team to the point where if one person is thrown off, it creates a ripple effect. And it affects everybody, which connects back to regionals because Minato was off or wasn't connecting, it was throwing off Kaido. And because Kaido was thrown off, it was throwing off Ryohei. And because Ryohei was thrown off, it just rippled down the line. And Fu was like, I don't think about that. He's like, I trust my teammates. I trust they're going to make their shots. I just worry about me and making my own. And we don't feed off each other's energy because that's a recipe for disaster. If you feed off another person's energy and it's not good energy, it's a very double-edged sword. If you feed off other people's energy, if it's good, awesome. If it's bad, you're messing yourself up. And Fu was like, rather than do that and attempt a risky situation, I just do the best I can do, and it will bolster my team that way. It's something simple. It's very, very simple, and it's effective. I love the shot where we get closed on his hands. He's like, the same goes for the shots of my teammates. He's like, I might be out there with the same guys, but no two shots are the same, and things are slightly different from day to day. He's like, you can't do lightning in a bottle. You can't replicate that. It just, every day is going to be a different competition. You've just got to be on your game the best you can be, and that will make you as a team stronger. If everybody is made up of strong, collected individuals, it's going to reflect on the team, right? You just can't try to match those shots. He's like, so I just don't bother with it. I only think of shooting the single shot. And I love him in the gear, and he has like the two colors, the red on one side and the blue on the other. It looks so good on Fuwa. I'm like, I love his character. I love this definition of his character and how it is. He's like, my teammates' timing is nothing compared to the waves of the sea. He's like, I've got bigger fish to fry than worrying about my teammates. I've got to focus on the task in front of me, not worry about them because they've got this. I love that. I think that's so good. He's like, that's the key. No two waves are the same, and neither are any two shots. They're all going to be different. I try to find a rhythm of each one and get in a row. I kind of think Fuwa would make a really good teacher. I would love if Fuwa kept doing Kyudo and became a teacher himself. What I would really like, I don't think, if we ever got like a flash forward in the future of Tsurune, I couldn't picture Nikaido as a teacher. I just don't. I picture him maybe having his own dojo, kind of like Masa, but not like being a teacher at a high school. I can't picture Nikaido. He does have a little temper. I just can't picture him doing it. But Fuwa, I can picture Fuwa being a teacher. He knows enough, and he's smart enough, and he seems professional enough. I think he could pull it off. Maybe he could be the teacher, and Nikaido could be his assistant. Maybe it could be like a Tommy Sensei Masa thing where it's Fuwa and Nikaido teaching this Tsujimine Kyudo team. That would be fun. And then Nikaido could go out and put on his fake smile and do fundraising. Like, yeah, that might actually be better. I like that. I could see that. That'd be fun. And yeah, and they're all just kind of amazed. They're like, wow, it's totally different than ours, than what we've been doing. I love that shot where it's all their bags next to each other. You have the purple bag, the green bag's obviously Minato's. The blue bag is probably Seiya's. The purple one is the purple one Ryohei's. The blue and white one, is that Nanao's, and the orange one Kaido's? Or, I have to see. But yeah, it's an entirely different approach. I love they're all just sitting like having a sleepover. It's so cute. Then we go to the bath scene. Yes, Nikaido is a much more like bulkier guy than I expected. He's like not like Minato is like a little Slim Jim, and Nikaido's got some bulk to him. He's a little buff, but Masa, KyoAni's just like, yes, he's in shape, but have you seen Masa-san? Like sitting there, like just with that towel draped over him. with that broad, expansive back. KyoAni, you go. You do you. You keep that up for us. Nikaido's like, oh, it's him. I love that. And also, Masa pours the water over him, and we in the audience are like, yes. And Nikaido's like, water? I was like, you're in a bath, darn it. Quit being such a contrarian. Come on. It's like, you're about to get in the tub. It's fine. Really. And he's like, do you want me to wash your back for you as an apology? Oh my God. Oh, Masa. Like, just KyoAni, you just keep hitting the home runs, giving us this Masa fan service. Keep doing it, please. And the funny thing about it is this is not like free. Like, free, the muscles are so overdone. This is just the right amount. I'm like, And then I like Nikaido's like, no thanks. Sorry. I only let Fuwa do that. And then we have the bath between the two of them. I love the visual symbolism of there being a clear barrier between Masa and Nikaido. They're both there in the moonlight, both sitting there equally apart, but there is a barrier between them, right? There's a wall there. It's very symbolic. And God, they just look so good. KyoAni with their beautifully animated water. And he asks, he's like, are you going to say anything about me knowing that Higuchi was breaking the rules? Are you going to say anything about it? And Masa's like, I mean, it's just a mock game. It's fine. He's like, I didn't really see the point in dragging it out. Why get so obsessed with winning one? Yeah, so Masa's calling him out saying, like, you're getting so obsessed about winning just this mock game. He's like, was it really worth it? I mean, like, it's not a big deal. And Nikaido says, losing once sets you to lose again. But, I mean, that's a pretty... He says that losing sets a pattern. That's a pretty self-destructive mindset, though, because at some point, you are going to lose. At some point. Even if you win nationals, you're not going to win every single time. That's just not going to happen. That's not possible. And even if it was possible, as Masa says, what's the point? It doesn't give you anything in the long run, right? It's the winning part is not the fulfilling part. He says, I want to keep us winning all through summer. And I love that Masa picks up on that. He's like, well, why just through summer? What about afterwards? Like, why does this just matter now? And Nikaido's planning on quitting. That's why. And Nikaido says it's dumb how everybody gets worked up over a simple sport like this. And I'm like, well, you've gotten really worked up about it. And it's because of your uncle. But everybody loves and does Kyudo that is participating in it for a different reason, right? And your reason isn't any less significant than theirs. And I just love we don't see his face throughout a lot of this conversation, right? And he's like, yeah, it is simple and dumb. He's like, focusing on winning and hitting targets is so simple, it's almost primal. He's like, you don't have to think much about it. Yeah, it's just like a raw thing. But that's why when you make that the only stuff that you focus on, you wind up hitting a wall. He's like, if all you're thinking about is just hitting the targets and winning, that's only going to get you so far before you're going to come up with something you can't get past. You can only ride a high hit rate for 5 or 6 years. Like he knows from experience, right? He's like, you can only win for so long like that. Maybe 10 if you really try. And then what do you do? And he's like, you just quit. And it's like, then you just quit. If you reach the top, you just go out on top, right? But he says, where do you get off talking like you've landed 100 out of 100 shots? Like, and it's like, Masa's like, because I have. I love that Masa's like, he almost has like a Minato-like stare at that point when Nikaido's like, what, you've hit 100 out of 100? You think you're so hot? And Masa's like, yes? I like Masa's eyes almost get like that Minato intensity. And he's like, but I have. And Nikaido's like, really? He's like, it was a solo practice, so I can't prove it. But I landed 211 consecutive shots. And he's really young there. Like, he's in high school because it shows him with the ponytail. He's in high school at that time. He's either in high school or he's just graduated. Or it could be around the time that his grandpa died. We're not sure. And that's when Nikaido has the sparkle eyes. And it's like, And he's like, I thought some bright future would be waiting on me if I hit 100 in a row. Like I'd gain some kind of superpower or something. Like I'd find enlightenment or something amazing would happen. But I didn't get anything. And so it's like, yeah, the expansive sky above him. He's like, I thought I'd have this amazing moment of enlightenment. And no, not really. I was no different than what I was. So that's the thing. He's like, I was no different than when I started. So then it becomes, why do I keep doing it? Because eventually the primal just winning is going to fade away or it's going to disintegrate. And then what are you left with underneath? And if there's nothing, then why'd you waste your time? It's figuring out what the whole point was. Why do you keep doing it? I was happy with myself for one fleeting moment. And then a whole lot of nothing happened. Which, yeah. And so he's like, but I'm pretty happy here. He's like, but I'm pretty happy now. He's like, it led me to this point. So, and so then, yeah. I love we cut back to season 1. And when Kaido was showing off the back of their shirts. And of course, he's like, I enjoy being behind my bow. And of course, Minato's at the center of everything. Of course he is. At this point, I was like, oh, show. And he says, I want to pass on what I know. All I've learned from the people who came before me. And we see Masa in like middle school at the time. At middle school, watching his grandfather. So Masa's thing is that he enjoys teaching. He enjoys teaching because it lets him shoot, which is good. But also, he says that he wants to pass on what he's learned. He says, and that's so true. There is something as a coach myself, I know there's something so rewarding about taking something like a piece of information that you've learned, and passing it on to someone else and letting them learn it as well. There's something very rewarding about that. And he's like, I want all I've learned from those who came before me. And we see like Minato being a kid next to his mom, who is also a Kyudo archer, and him just standing there, all I've realized on my own. So yeah, I love this montage here. He's like, everything I've learned from others, I'm going to put from others, and everything I've learned on my own. Because yeah, he's like, there's so much that people teach you, and then there's so much you learn yourself. And he's like, and then again, we get Minato, when he met him, everything I realized on my own, I want to pass it all on. And see what new sorts of shooting it might lead to. So yeah, he's like, everything I've learned from myself, from the people around me, I want to pass it on people I think have potential and see how they change the game. And of course, Minato's at the center of it all. And he's like, that's what I want to learn from. He's like, I want to see how the game changes by teaching others. And then Nikaido thinks, that's what his uncle's been saying this whole time. His uncle's like, you need to find a teacher to learn from so you can gain that knowledge and pass it on to others. But at the same time, it's like Nikaido wants to pass on and hold dear the things he's learned from his uncle. So it all, like those parallels, that comparison, it really hits in this moment. And his uncle sounds a lot like Masa. He's like, oh, is that so, huh? And he's like, you can save those fancy dreams of yours for your precious little team. And it's just like, Nikaido, your uncle wants the same thing for you, and your uncle feels the same way as Masa does. It's like and I feel like part of Nikaido feels the same way too, but he's just in denial about it. He's in his own head too much. And then he just walks out. Ugh. He's like, not some guy like me. And Masa's like, what? I like that Masa's like, dude, I'm just trying to help. Just sharing my thoughts here, but thanks. Yeah, Nikaido just doesn't think. Nikaido says, he just makes it seem like he's not worth it. He's like, that dream isn't going to happen to me, so quit trying to make me get hopeful. And it's so sad, right? So sad. And so, yeah, we go back to them, like, practicing, like, what do we have here? And they're all, like, doing different positions. Like, we have Kaido at the end, and Ryohei starting, and then we have, like, them all changing it up. Like, it's kind of fun. And Fuwa's like, well, that's not really what I was thinking of, but I guess that's one way to do it. Like, I like that Fuwa's instantly realized what they're doing and why they're doing it. And he's kind of impressed, right? But Nikaido is in his own head. Like, he's really in his own head today. Like, he's totally on edge. And, like, when he tells him, like, hurry up and get ready, like, it's like, Nikaido. When he says, do you guys even want to win? Like, it's like, at that point, it's just, calm down, Nikaido. It's gonna be all right. And then Fuwa, like, everybody starts to get all tense. And Fuwa just has this look on his face like, Fuwa doesn't say anything. Oh, the girl's the one pointing it out. But Fuwa has this look on his face like, is Nikaido about to blow up? Because we don't need that. Like, Fuwa is instantly, like, preparing for damage. And Nikaido is just, and he says, we won't be ready in time if we do that. We're done if we lose. And Fuwa's like, let off, Nikaido. Yeah, like, Fuwa is trying to do damage control, and Nikaido is just so tense. And he's just at the end of his rope and thinks that it's just all spiraling down around him. And he can't, the pressure of staying on top is just getting to him. And then, I like, Fuwa tries to, like, he's like, just relax, dude, okay? He's like, just calm down. Like, Fuwa's very good at diffusing the situation, right? And then, of course, he's like, well, that's really awkward. And he says, I'm going to go help him. So Fuwa is always, man, always at Nikaido's side. Like, he is very, he doesn't seem as obvious sometimes, I guess, as Seiya, but he is very much, like, in Seiya mode of just trying to help Nikaido stay on top of everything. So, yeah. So then everybody's waiting out in the lobby. They're talking about how great everything was, switching up positions, how they're getting ready to go. And then Seiya's like, yeah, Nikaido did not used to be this emotional when he was on Kurasaki's team. They're like, we don't know where this is coming from, what the deal is. He wasn't like that to begin with. And so then that's when Minato says, I promised I'd call Shu, so I'm going to head back. I guess he had texted him, so Shu decides to text instead of call back. Maybe Shu just got tired of waiting. And that's when he sees Nikaido trying to get in the elevator. And it's so awkward. Again, KyoAni loves them an elevator scene, right? I felt like I was rewatching Free of, like, Sosuke and Haru in the elevators. I was just like, oh my gosh. It just felt like a remake of that Free elevator scene. But yeah, it's KyoAni, they love that awkward elevator because it really can be. And they're just going up to the second floor, but the elevator gets stuck, right? It gets stuck, and then, yeah, Nikaido's very passive at first, and he doesn't really, he's just like, whatever, call somebody. And then they all realize that the elevator's stuck. And Minato calls Masa, of course, and is told to press the emergency button to talk, which, would seem like an obvious thing, but if you've never been stuck in an elevator before, you might not know what to do. And so Masa kind of walks him through it. It's really cute. And Nikaido's just not even really, he's just not really into it at all. And then the people in the elevator are like, oh, we'll fix it. What floor are you stuck between? It's fine. And of course the lights go out, right? And then the elevator falls. Now here's the thing. The elevator, like, starts to shift and Minato falls backwards, right? He falls backwards, but this is the part that worries me a bit. When he falls, I want to see this again. Go back to this episode. When he falls, he catches himself. He tries to catch himself, and he falls down, and he hurts his hand, and that's the hand he shoots with. So I'm like, they don't make any mention of it now, but you just know that Minato, he hurts his hand. Is that gonna come back to bite him at Nationals? I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? If they lose because of that hand, because he got in that elevator with Nikaido, oh, I'm going to be mad. I'm going to be mad. I'm going to be so mad if he starts getting, like, if he's injured that hand and they bring that back. Oh, my God. Yep, nope. Not having it. Not having it at all. And so, yeah, I like that Fuwa's like, wait, what is happening? When they say Minato's stuck inside the elevator with Nikaido, Fuwa's like, that is a recipe for disaster because Nikaido, the last person Nikaido wants to be stuck with is Shu or Minato. And And then Masaki shows up and he's like, hey, what's going on? I heard Minato's name. I heard Minato being mentioned. What were we doing? And then they're like, yeah, they're stuck in the elevator. So, yeah, of course, Nikaido can't just be silent, right? He said, because Minato's like, Masa says the repair is going to be about 10 minutes. And then Nikaido, it's so frustrating. He's like, oh, it must be nice getting to call your coach for help whenever you want. I'm like, you call your uncle for help. Even though he can't physically come there, he does reply to you. Like, don't be an asshole. And of course, Minato's like, yeah, like Minato doesn't have a mean bone in his body. So the taunt does not work, right? The taunt doesn't work at all. And Nikaido's like, I bet you've never felt let down or frustrated. And I was like, have you seen season 1, sir? No, you haven't, but you should have. Because yeah, Minato's definitely felt let down and frustrated. And I like that Minato kind of reflects. And I think I think it ticks off Nikaido because not only do his taunts not work, but both characters, Masa and Minato, they don't mean anything malicious to him at all. They're not trying to hurt him. They're trying to be his friend, if anything, and help him, if anything. And he just can't get out of his own head about it all. And it's so tragic because it's like, dude, they would be great support for you if you would just let them in. And Nikaido just can't do it yet. And Minato tells him about target panic. And Nikaido just kind of looks through it like, But what I really wanted them to talk about, Minato says the only reason I made it back is because I met Masa-san and the rest of the club, which, you know, the club helped him to gain his love of Kyudo back. And for Nikaido, Tsujimine kind of helped him continue that love on. I really want Minato to talk with Nikaido about family and worrying about them. But I get that it's a personal subject, and Nikaido seems like a very private person. Except for Fuwa, he just inserts himself in the situation like, I'm here. I'm basically family. But Nikaido seems a bit more private, and so I get it. I get that it would be awkward. And plus, Nikaido doesn't want to think about his uncle dying, so to talk to someone who has lost a family member would be too personal. But there's so much potential there because Minato knows about loss. He knows about how you feel when you lose someone like that. And so I feel like he could be someone that Kaido could turn to talk about if something happens. And to share his fears and his worries and his sadness. Like Minato could be a shoulder he could cry on. But I get why he's not doing that because you don't want to think about that when it's not happening. So it's just like, damn it. Right. Darn it. And he's like, the only reason I made it back was because of Masa. And yeah, Nikaido's just talking about obsessed. And it's like, well, you're one to talk. He's like, you seem the same, right? And then, yeah, Nikaido's like, me obsessed? And it's like, pot calling the kettle black. And Minato's like, I admired your form. He's like, your team is really great. And it's like, yeah, they all are really fun. And it's like just telling Nikaido what he already knows. It says it seems like a band of friends you can count on. And that's so true. Like Nikaido has a really good thing in front of him. He just needs to recognize it. He's like, I don't have to take what it takes to pull everyone together like that, so I'm kind of jealous. Yeah, Minato of all people, he's telling Nikaido, he's like, you're able to be a captain to them, a coach to them. Well, he's not the captain, Aragaki is. He's like, you're able to be a coach to them, to like pull them all together and lead them. He's like, I can't do that. He's like, I'm pretty dense. Seiya has to help me out a lot. So he's like, I'm kind of jealous that you can inspire them in so many ways. And there's kind of a sadness to that because I'm like, Minato, you inspire your team a lot. You just don't realize it. It's like, but like Minato, like you do inspire your team. Don't be like that. And he's just telling Nikaido he does such a good job and they should think better. And Nikaido's like, I'm just using my team. He's like, don't act like you don't know me. He's like, and Nikaido's like, Minato says, you look really cool out there. Like, that can't be true. And then Nikaido tells him to shut up, that he doesn't want to play buddy-buddy anymore, which I'm glad Nikaido is not putting on the fake act anymore in front of Minato. He's being himself, and he's letting Minato see this. In the craziest of ways, this reminds me of Yarichin Bitch Club. It does. It does, because you have the main protagonist who's like a cinnamon bun, total innocent character, and then you have this character who acts really fake and nice in front of people, but on the inside is kind of like bitter, right? Bitter about several things and projects that outside of themselves. And Nikaido is kind of that character too. And it's like, it's like, yeah, he's Yachi pretty much. It's like, yeah, this is interesting. And he finally confesses to Minato that he's not going to be buddy-buddy. And Minato doesn't judge him. He's just like, okay. And that's when his phone lights up. And it's from Shu. I like that we have Minato and Shu. Minato says, do you know what's up with Nikaido-senpai? Sorry it took so long to get back to you. And Shu says, what? He says, I think I might have an idea of what his issue is. And the icon for Shu is that bird that's in the painting from episode 7. The bird, the princely bird. And that's when the elevator starts to come back on. And that's when Nikaido stands up and his phone starts ringing. And I was like, are you freaking kidding me? I thought it was the uncle, but it's the aunt. And she says, there's something I need to tell you, Eisuke-kun. And she says, your uncle passed out and had to be taken to the hospital. And God, she's like, I don't know the details, but I'll let you know when I do, so just sit still, okay? And Nikaido's face, he de-ages like 10 years. He looks like a little kid that is in the headlights that has no clue what to do. And that is the most, that's when I was like, oh my God, KyoAni, don't do this. Don't make me cry. Like, I'm getting emotional just rewatching this. But he's just like, she's like, do you hear me? And I'm like, when he starts to lower the phone, like, this is like his worst nightmare is losing his uncle because he loves him so much. And I'm like, I can't. I'm like, KyoAni, don't you dare. I'm like, don't you dare. And his freak out where he has to get out of the elevator. Oh my God. It's just, oh. And he's like, I don't have time to waste in here. He's like, my uncle is more important. He's like, I gotta get to him. Oh, and that, like, the bags under his eyes. Oh my God. It's so sad. He's like, why does it always have to be him? Oh. And that's when, of course, the elevator opens up and there's everybody standing there. And of course, it's Fuwa. Smack dab in the center. It's Fuwa right there looking at Nikaido. And Nikaido, like, nearly, like, collapses. And then Minato's just like, oh no. Because Minato, him losing his mom, it was an accident and it was so sudden, he didn't have time to, like, process any of it until after the fact. But, so he's just kind of like, what's the deal with Nikaido? And Nikaido, this is just like his worst fear realized. He's like, my uncle's taken to the hospital. And Higuchi's like, oh, that's not good at all. And he's like, get out of my way. And then I love that Minato looks up to Masa like, we can help him. And Masa's like, yes, we can. And Masa just has this look on his face like, this is why I love you, kid. And I'm like, just ship him already. I'm just settled with it at this point. Because, yeah, and we get the realization that Masa, as they're driving there, Minato's been to this hospital before, so he knows where it's at. Yep, he knows where the hospital is at, so he can take them there. I went to the same place when I had an accident, so I know my way around. Yeah, I like that Minato doesn't tell him all the details because now's not the time, but he just says, I had an accident, that's where I went, so I know my way around that area. And Fuwa's like, okay, and Nikaido's just out of it, right? And I like that Fuwa says thanks. He's like Nikaido is totally out of the zone. He's just completely collapsed. And Fuwa's like, no, thank you, good. We're like, Fuwa is being the partner here, like, yeah. And then that's when Masa says, is this uncle of yours your teacher, Nikaido-kun? And he says, he's more than that. I owe him everything. And then, man, when he says, it's thanks to him I didn't end up a wreck like my goddamn dad. It's like, oh, he's like, my dad thinks, like his biological father, he thinks is just scum. And he's like, my uncle saved me, so why does bad stuff happen to him? And that just cuts to my heart. Like, oh, again, getting emotional. I'm not going to cry, but I want to, rewatching this scene. just not good. And then he says he gets rejected by Saionji and gets sicker and sicker. And Masa's like, wait, what? Who? What now? He's like, turned away by Saionji sensei. And Nikaido's like, yeah, he sure did. He went ready to abandon his own shooting style. She'd take him in, and she wouldn't do it. And she turned him down. And then, of course, yeah, it's like genetic, get inside your own head. It's genetic between them all, between Nikaido and his uncle. And yeah, just seeing him get so sad. But I'm like, at this point, if Minato is not going to connect the dots between them, I want Masa to connect the dots and be the adult and be like, wait a minute, and figure out what's going on. And maybe Masa will talk to the uncle and tell them what's going on. Maybe Masa will talk to the uncle when he figures it out and reveal this whole thing. And then Nikaido will find out from the uncle. Maybe we'll do it that way. That would be great. You know, I want them to find out the truth by the end of this season. And I feel like they're going to. It's just a matter of time. And that's when Shu, with his little bird emoji icon, says, this young boy around our age gave me trouble about studying under Saionji sensei a long time ago. It's like such a cryptic narrative that Shu reveals here. Of course, that'd be exactly. He's like, I figured it would bother you. And he didn't seem to want to say anything, so I never mentioned it. I like that both Seiya and Shu in this episode have both alluded to Minato that they've had this information, but they didn't want to share it with Minato because they didn't want him to worry. So there's that. But I'm pretty sure it was Nikaido senpai. And Minato's like, okay. His health's only gotten worse since then. He even just taking a few shots takes everything out of him. And then they show us this image of him like trying to fire and then gets on his knees. Like, just not being barely able to do it. KyoAni, why? Why'd she take you guys in, but not my uncle? Because Nikaido's like, my uncle deserved it. He's the nicest person. He deserved to be taken in. Why didn't she? And he doesn't know the truth. But Minato knows. And it pisses him off. He's like, I'm not about to lose to you. She took you in, and now I'm going to crush you and Fujiwara both. And what I love about this scene is that they say nothing. Like, because that's not what matters right now. Like, they don't have an argument. They don't be like, you're not going to crush us or like anything like that. No. Nikaido is freaking out about his uncle. He's in a very bad place. His uncle, it's got him really worried. And the best thing they can do is just let Nikaido talk and listen to him and not try to correct him, not try to fire back. Just let him go because he needs to just get this off his chest. And I really respect that they treat this situation so seriously. But then he says, once I do, I'm done with Kyudo. And you can tell that Minato really doesn't like to hear that. And he wants to say something. But again, he's respectful. And he's like, I'm not gonna say anything and interfere. I'm just gonna let it go. For now. And then, yeah, they get to the hospital. And he goes in there and says, uncle. And the uncle is, of course, like really nice. And they say he's in stable condition. And he's like, look at your face. It's like, and then, yeah. And Nikaido's like been crying already. Like he's so tore up. It's so sad. And he's like tearing up. And then starts to cry. Oh. And then we said, there's still plenty I want to teach you, though. Oh, and I'm putting the hand on him. So I can't go kick in the bucket just yet. And that part of him, like, crying. Oh, it's so... And at this point, I was like, I couldn't get too sad in the moment because KyoAni just shows Masa and Minato and Fuwa just sitting there smiling like, look at that. I'm like, he's in pain. Nikaido is in pain with his uncle. And you three are just standing there like, look at this. Look at this happy reunion. I'm like... It was hard for me to get really emotional because they were just standing there smiling, but oh my God. Yeah, poor Nikaido. And so then, yeah, Masa and Minato, of course, go back on their own. And the aunt says she'll take Fuwa and Eisuke back later. It's like, yeah, Fuwa's going to stay there. Sure. And then, yeah. And Fuwa's like, I'll let him know about everything. And so then Minato, on the way back, it's all philosophical. Minato's like, why do we shoot Masa? And Masa's like, kid, now's not the time to ask these questions, sir. And it's a journey of self-discovery in so many ways. He's like, why do we keep going when things get tough? And Masa's like, well, we keep going to find the answers to those questions. Because that's all we know how to do. That's all we know to do. What else can we do? It's like, we've got to keep looking for those answers. We might end up looking for an answer until the very last shot we ever take. And then, seeing the uncle wake up. And then, him just like putting his hand on Nikaido with the head pats. And that's when Minato says there's no end to it, huh? And Masa says there sure isn't. But that's what makes it interesting. And then that look between them, I'm like, okay, show, you're just trying to ship Masa and Minato to me. Okay, fine. I've come to accept it this season. I'm still not on board with the teacher-student relationship, but I'm like, fine, KyoAni, you want to ship it? Sure. Can't deny it, right? And then I love that Tommy Sensei's like, wow, this was worth the trip, huh? I'm like, yeah, lots of existential trauma and life soul-searching questioning. What a great outing. I'm like, oh my god. And and then of course Minato and Nikaido's been crying. Like he's got the KyoAni like little tears under his eyes, like the stain. And of course he gets all flustered. He's like, doesn't want to admit that Minato helped him. That Minato could become a friend. And I love that Minato takes Nikaido has this Cinderella just like, I don't want to talk to you. And Minato's like, we're going to be friends by the end of this. Minato is bound and determined to Care Bear stare Nikaido into becoming besties. It's like God. And then, of course, Otaguro watching Seo with the little blushy face. But, again, I like that they're like, we owe you a lot for the past few days. And the one guy, I love the sponsor was like, well, I didn't do anything but fish, but thanks for taking care of my student that was having a panic attack about his sick uncle. Sorry I was gone. I was just like, about that. And so then they're all, I love the little date scene. And Tommy Sensei is like, oh, love's in the air. And then I love that Fuwa is hanging out with the guys. I love Fuwa is hanging out with Nanao and Ryohei and Kaido. I want more with Fuwa and Nikaido with them. I think that would be amazing. And then Kaido's like, what do you got here? And Nanao's like, they're about to get to the best part. Oh my god. And then I love these, like, if it's not too much to ask, would you like to go out with me? I love that he extends his hand. It's so cute. And Seo's like, oh, I'm sorry. She's like, I want to focus on the time I have with my team. She's like, hoes before bros. She's like, hoes before bros. Sorry. Gotta win nationals first. Then I'll think about it. She's like, and I love the girls are like, yes. That's right, Seo. Don't give in to him yet. Bless her. Yeah, they're like, that's our Seo for you. And then, of course, Otaguro goes running back to the other two. And he says, it's Kyudo for me too, then. So, see, they, good, healthy. We're not going to date right now. We got a competition to worry about. Got our teammates to worry about. We'll table this discussion for now. I love it. And Seiya's like, what's their deal? You don't have to be obvious and confess it. I love that. Seiya's like, do they not know how secret relationships work? I just feel like Seiya's just like, oh, how pedestrian. And Minato's like, what's happening? God. He's like, and then I like Minato's like, I don't have time to date either. I've got to stick to this too. And Nikaido's having none of any of this. And so then he says, Nikaido senpai, next time we meet, we'll be at nationals. We're not going to lose. And Nikaido's like, you finally got some guts, huh, Minato-chan? And he's like, fine. Then that'll make it more fun. I love that Nikaido has a little bit of like sneaky little foxiness to him. We're going to crush you. Uh-huh. Nice. And Minato's so determined. It's great. Doing the Shinji fist. Honestly, Minato reminds me, his character has always reminded me of Shinji from Neon Genesis. But if Shinji was in like the most optimistic, like inspiring sports anime, that's what we're dealing with, right? It reminds me a lot of him. But yeah. And then Drawl of a New Dawn. Oh, I I love it. I love this episode so much. I'm glad KyoAni gave us their angst. Gave us that damn angst, but then we got to work past it. I'm like, good deal. Nobody's got time for that. Oh my God. My heart. I nearly cried like 3 times. Like once during the episode and twice during this discussion. I was starting to tear up. So yeah, so we're doing nationals next week. The game is on. Kirasaki's going to be there. Tsujimine's going to be there. Nikaido is okay right now. Fuwa's making sure everything's fine. We're not going to have any dating going on during the tournament. Maybe afterwards. Who knows? And then, yeah, it's game on. I'm pretty darn excited. So I'm very curious to know your thoughts down below. I really hope you enjoyed this reaction and discussion. I also want to give a very special shout out to our special tier over on Patreon, our philanthropy tier, who give me extra money each month to help me support these reactions and discussions and talking about it with you all. So special thanks this month to Edgar, to Dana, to Tyrone, to Larry Manning, to Arjo, to Shimoyama, to Truck, to Anime Annie, to Larry Manning, as well as Kenny. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate all the support that you give me. I really cannot thank you all enough, but I appreciate everything that you all do. And a thanks to Patreon as well. All of my love to every single one of you. Thank you. So yeah, I'm ready, y'all. But I hope y'all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe. Take care. And yeah, I'll be back next week as we're starting nationals, baby, with episode 11 of season 2 of Tsurune. Bye.